Welcome to this deep dive.
Mm-hmm.
Today we're jumping straight into a big one. The tactical analysis of the Europa League final 2025.
That's right. Tottenham versus Manchester United.
And the headline result, just to get it out there, was Tottenham taking the trophy 1-0.
A tight one. And the sources you shared really dig into how that single goal, well, decided everything.
Exactly. So our mission here is to unpack the key moments, the tactical stories that this analysis reveals. We're talking the goal itself, obviously, a really crucial defensive moment. And the flip side, how one team really struggled offensively.
Despite having a lot of the ball, it seems.
Right. So we're going to guide you through the main insights from this material. Okay, let's get into it.
That was good. Well, what jumps out straight away from the sources is, how these finals with just one goal, they often boil down to maybe 2 or 3 really critical moments.
Right, pivotal sequences.
Exactly. And the analysis really zooms in on the 42nd minute. That's when Tottenham got the breakthrough, Brennan Johnson scoring the only goal.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and the sources use phrases like opportunistic goal, clinical realism. What was it about that moment, according to the analysis? Why was it so decisive?
Well, the insight seems to be how fast Spurs turned defense into attack. The breakdown talks about a higher recovery, winning the ball back pretty far up the pitch.
Not deep in their own half, then?
No. It specifically mentions Bissouma and Sarr in midfield doing the work. And winning it there is, well, it's key, right? It immediately puts the opponent on the back foot, less organized, creates that chance for a quick hit.
Gotcha. So win it high, strike fast.
Precisely.
Yeah.
From that recovery, the analysis highlights a quick transition. Ball moves swiftly towards the left wing.
And Sarr put the cross in.
Yeah, what the sources describe as a precise cross right into the box.
And you need that precision, don't you? Especially in a final, maybe your only real sniff at goal.
Absolutely. So the cross finds Brennan Johnson. But here's a really interesting detail the sources point out.
Oh.
The ball actually took a deflection off Luke Shaw, the United defender.
Ah, okay. So not like a perfectly clean strike.
Not entirely. The deflection off Shaw seems to have played a part in it getting past the keeper.
That adds a layer, doesn't it? It kind of underlines that being clinical isn't always about a thunderbolt shot. Sometimes it's about being in the right spot, executing that quick move.
And maybe getting that little bit of luck, yeah.
But it ended up in the net. That's what counts.
Yes, the sources actually titled that bit. But de Johnson, realism clinic, clinical realism. It nails it, really. Tottenham took that moment, created by their quick transition, and boom, one chance, one goal.
So Spurs get the lead just before halftime. Always a good time to score. But look, a 1-0 lead in any final, it's fragile, isn't it? Did United threaten to get back into it?
They certainly did. And the sources pull out another huge moment, this time defensively for Spurs. They call it le sauvetage héroïque de Micky van de Ven.
The heroic save.
Yeah, in the 69th minute. It's even labeled le geste du match, the defining action, apart from the goal. This is where Spurs' defense really stood up to be counted.
Yeah. Okay, sounds dramatic. Heroic save. What actually happened? Set the scene for us.
Right, so United are pushing, obviously chasing the game. It starts with a Bruno Fernandes free kick from outside the box.
Okay.
Vicario, the Spurs keeper, makes the initial save. Good stop, pushes the ball away.
Decent save, but the ball's still live.
Exactly, not cleared properly. And the rebound goes directly to Rasmus Højlund.
United striker.
Yeah, and he gets a puissant tête, a powerful header, straight back towards the goal, which Vicario is now left slightly open, making the save.
Oh, wow. So point-blank header, open goal looming.
Looked absolutely certain to go in, an incredibly dangerous moment.
And this is where Van de Ven steps up. The heroic part.
This is it. The sources describe him just sprinting back frantically towards his own goal line. Incredible pace, reads the danger instantly.
Gets back just in time.
Just in time. Produces what the analysis calls a blockage, a block, right on the line.
Yeah.
They really emphasize it. Sauvetage héroïque, heroic save, calling him an impassable wall.
Wow. So Vicario makes the first save, but Van de Ven literally saves the goal with that block on the line from Højlund's follow-up. That's massive.
It really is. That combination, the awareness, the speed, sheer desperation, probably. It preserved the 1-0 lead right when United were throwing everything at them.
At that moment feels just as important as the goal, in a way.
You could definitely argue that.
Yeah.
The sources really highlight it as the counterpoint, Tottenham's clinical finish at one end and this piece of defensive brilliance at the other. Without that block, who knows? Totally different game.
Okay, so Tottenham score from a quick transition, then defend that lead with a moment of pure heroism. What about the United side of things? The sources seem to suggest that Well, they struggled, right? Despite having the ball a lot.
Yeah, this is the third key bit the sources really focus on. They call it la sterilité offensive de Manchester United. Offensive sterility.
Doesn't sound good.
No. It points out that despite having une possession écrasante, just overwhelming amounts of the ball, they found it really, really hard to actually create proper chances against that Tottenham defense.
So lots of possession, but
yeah,
impotent possession. Didn't do much with it.
That's the picture painted, yeah. The analysis highlights a lack of verticality. They weren't direct enough, weren't playing forward quickly or dangerously. Instead, the diagrams in the analysis show lots of petite flèche animé, latéral, retrait, basically lots of little arrow showing passes going sideways or even backwards.
The classic sterile possession problem. Passing side to side looks nice on the stats maybe, but doesn't actually hurt a set defense.
Exactly. It just lets the defense stay organized.
Yeah.
The sources say United buté sur un mur. They just ran into a wall. That wall being Tottenham's bloc bas compacted dunce.
Their deep, compact defensive block.
Yep. Spurs were disciplined, sat deep, stayed tight together, made it incredibly difficult for United to play through the middle.
So it sounds like United's possession game was maybe a bit predictable. Easy for Spurs to just sit in their shape and soak it up.
That's definitely the interpretation coming from these sources. Any attempts United made to force a pass forward into a dangerous area, the analysis shows them as flèche rouge berets, blocked red arrows.
Intercepted or tackled.
Right, by that well-drilled Spurs defense.
Yeah.
And there's a visual comparison included, too, which really hammers it home. United's high possession stats versus their relatively low numbers for shots on target and expected goals, XG.
So the numbers show had the ball loads, didn't create much threat.
Precisely. Controlling the ball didn't mean controlling the actual dangerous parts of the game, basically.
Okay, so the tactical narrative that emerges from these sources is pretty clear then. Tottenham had a game plan. Be sharp on the counter, take your chance when it comes.
Which they did. That Johnson goal from the quick transition.
And then defend really solidly.
Yeah.
Deep, compact, disciplined. Make yourself hard to beat.
And rely on moments of individual quality defensively, too, like Van de Ven's block.
Right. And on the other side, Manchester United dominated the ball, had overwhelming possession, but just couldn't find the key. Their play became a bit predictable, maybe a bit slow.
Sterile, as the source puts it. Couldn't unlock that defense.
That seems to be the story the sources are telling, yeah. Tottenham clinical offensively when needed, outstanding defensively in that key moment. United's possession game just wasn't effective against that setup.
A fascinating tactical battle, really.
Okay, let's sort of wrap this deep dive up. Bringing it all together, what we've pulled from these sources is that Tottenham's 1-0 win in the Europa League final basically hinged on two key moments.
Yeah, that instance of clinical realism from Brennan Johnson to grab the goal.
And that absolutely crucial, heroic bit of defending from Micky Van de Ven to preserve it.
And the underlying tactical story is really one of contrast, isn't it? You had Tottenham able to execute their planned score, then defend that lead resolutely in their compact shape.
Standing firm in that low block.
Yeah, standing firm. Against Manchester United, who, for all their time on the ball, just couldn't translate that dominance into real scoring threat.
Yeah.
Too many sideways or backward passes against that wall.
So for you listening, you've just got a pretty detailed look into the tactics of that final. Not just the 1-0 scoreline, but the why behind it, based directly on the analysis provided. It paints a clear picture of how those different approaches clashed.
It really does. And it leaves you thinking, doesn't it? Having overwhelming possession can sometimes lead to this kind of offensive, sterility against a really disciplined defense. What does that maybe tell us about where football tactics are going or the balance between different styles? When does having the ball most stop being an advantage and maybe even become, a bit of a tactical problem itself?
Yeah, that's a great question to ponder. What stands out to you from this deep dive? Something to think about.